Hello everyone, welcome to Wildwood Studio and Happy New Year! I'm Sarah, and in this video I'm going to be doing a wood burning of a Labrador retriever. And this one's going to be used to make a wooden calendar holder, which sort of works thematically with this being my first video of 2025. This was commissioned by a friend of mine for a woodworking project he's doing for one of his friends who loves labs, so I'll show a picture of the finished project at the end along with my burning. Usually when I do a pet portrait, the person will provide a photo of their actual pet, but for this one it was meant to be more generic because this person has more than one lab, so I got to choose the reference. I thought this was a cute picture that fit well with the space that I had, and that's basically my whole motivation. Before I started burning, I sanded the panel a bit to make sure that it was smooth, but it was pretty much smooth to begin with, so I think he had already done that, and then I transferred my image. As per usual, I'm using my razor tip wood burning system, and I did basically this whole burning with my spoon shader pen. Because I was burning on different wood than usual, I started this piece by burning the dark area under the dog's ear. This way I could get a feel for the heat setting that I needed and what the wood grain was going to do. And because that section is so dark, I didn't have to worry about messing it up. Then I did the eyes like I normally do, because they're quick to show fast progress and they give me motivation to continue, not that I really needed it for this project since it only took me about 4 hours from start to finish. Next I started the fur on his face. As always, the most important thing here was to make sure that my pen strokes went in the correct direction for the fur texture. The picture I used for this pose was a bit blurry, so I also pulled other references of similar dogs just to have something to refer to when I wasn't sure what I was looking at in terms of texture. One challenge with this burning is that I'm not working on my usual basswood, since this piece of wood was provided for me and was already cut to the shape that it needed to be to fit the rest of the project, so this wood has more of a visible grain. I actually think that can look pretty cool, since it really calls attention to the medium of wood burning when you can see the grain still present in the finished picture, but it can add a significant challenge not just because there are lines through the work, but because the grain lines are different hardnesses than each other. So the darker lines were a bit harder to burn, whereas the lighter spaces burn more easily. This can make it hard to get straight lines because the pen will sort of sink into the wood unexpectedly in different areas, and it can cause dark spots if you're not careful. I think this is a big problem some beginners have, and I know that I had this problem starting out, which is that some woods are just more difficult to work with than others. For example, I started burning on just whatever they had stocked at my local craft store, and the panels that I bought were a harder wood, and I couldn't figure out why I had to burn at such high settings, and it was still not burning very dark, and it would take forever to get any kind of darker value. And then for a wood like this, it's a softer wood and it burns fairly easily, but the grain can catch the pen and cause blotches and mistakes, which is something I think I was mostly able to compensate for, but it would have made it way harder and more discouraging as a beginner. So for that reason, if you're just starting out, I would recommend burning on basswood if you can. You can get pieces with next to no grain, and what is there won't interfere with your lines very much. And it burns fairly easily at a moderate heat setting. The last section I did was the nose, because dog noses are weird and I find it hard to tell when I've messed it up and when I just need to trust the process and it'll be fine. So I sort of put off that area. The dog I was looking at had a nose that was pretty much the same color as his fur, so I tried to shade it so that it would stand out without making it look wrong. I'm pretty happy with how it looks, but I do think maybe it could have been darker. I had already darkened it a few times by the time I was finished, and I was just worried about overworking it at that point, so I stopped. Also, I didn't mention it before, but one of the things I liked about this reference was the lighting, which had a pretty dramatic highlight all across the top of the dog's head. But since I wasn't going to do a dark background here because it had to fit with the rest of the project, I didn't want his head to just fade out at the top, so I added a bit of a sketchy outline to the top of his head. Usually outlines will make things look less realistic, but I think that other than adding white to this burning, which I didn't really want to do, this was the best option. Here's some pictures of the finished burning, as well as the finished calendar holder. As always, please let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see more of my work, you can check out my Facebook page or follow me on Instagram. Also, please make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss all my future art videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.